Okay, we're gonna take a break from the uh, from the draw knife for this week. I'm gonna show y'all some of the equipment that I work on here. This particular piece of equipment is a plastic strap feeder. This is the actual part that you feed the little plastic strap into, and it takes it and feeds the plastic strap around the bale, and this is the part that actually that's belt driven right there. This pulley right here is belt driven. Pop off of there, man. As you can tell. Oh, there we go. Anyway, this is belt driven. You got these two springs right here that kind of hold the wheels together, so when it turns, it feeds the strap. Those little wheels right there. This spring is a bad dude. You just about kind of got to beat it to get it off of there. But this actually, like I said, this is part of a strapping machine, and it actually takes it and sends a strap around and around the bale, and it puts 6 straps on there. It has 6 heads on it, and every head has one of these feeder assemblies, and it sends the strap around like that. Well, not like that, but you know what I mean. It feeds the strap around. Getting the spring off ain't that bad of a deal. Getting it back on is a mother. But you just got to kind of work it off and get it off, and then basically what I do on this one, I don't do it on all the machines because they don't need it that often. But this particular customer wants me to do these every year. Wants me to do these every year, so I have to take these apart every year and change the bearings in them, change the springs in them, and kind of like that. Clean them up. So you got to take it apart to replace the bearings and the springs on everything. You give them a good cleaning too while you're at it. And those springs are expanded, they're not compressed, so they have more tension. It's a fine screwdriver right here now. I'm here to tell you that's a fine screwdriver. Y'all don't know how old that screwdriver is. That screwdriver is probably 25 years old. Yeah, that's got to come out of there. With a wrench. Got to get it off with a wrench. So this is part of the off-season rebuilding stuff that I do. We go through and we change all this stuff out so we don't have any problems with this during the gin season, or so the customer doesn't have any problem with it. Like I said, they only run 4 or 5 months out of the year at the most. In some instances, they only run about 3. So they compress all that work into that little bit of time because that's when the harvest comes in. And yeah. So the off season, they're doing repairs, they're doing modifications, upgrades, and that's when I do my my refurbishing, my preventive maintenance work. Now you can see that center wheel right there. That's what's driven. That's what's actually doing the driving. That center wheel's got a gear on one side that turns the other gears, and on the side my hand's on, it's got a pulley that actually, yeah, you can see it better there. It's actually got a pulley that attaches to a belt, and that's what actually drives that strap through. Yeah, that all kinds of that crap gets in there. All kinds of strap and cotton and everything else gets in there, and cause it to choke up and everything. And that's how it's supposed to turn. That's how smooth it is. Now, this is the fun part, putting the springs back on. And while I'm putting the springs back on, I'm gonna tell you something a little bit about two brothers on the Mississippi. In 1858, two brothers got jobs working on steamboats on the Mississippi. One of them's name was Sam. Dang, that thing gonna tear my fingers up one day. One of them's name was Sam, and the other one's name was Henry. Henry was 2 years younger than his brother Sam, and Sam actually got fired from the steamboat, the Pennsylvania, and went to work on another one. Went to work on another boat, but before he did, he got a job for his brother Henry working on the steamboat as mud clerk. Now, I ain't gonna go into what all a mud clerk is, but it's basically an apprentice. One day, the Pennsylvania had a boiler explosion, and Henry was on board when it had the boiler explosion. Henry survived, only to be taken to a hospital on shore. This thing, I'm telling you what, I'm getting ticked about right now. Henry is burned. His lungs is burned. He's burnt all over his body. And when Sam hears it, he arranges to go to his brother's side. Now, this happened in June 13th, 1858. When Sam finally gets there, his brother's still alive, and he spends the next few days comforting his brother and trying to get his brother's hopes up, keeps his brother's hopes up. But on June the 21st of 1858, as a result of injuries received in the explosion of the Pennsylvania, he finally dies. Henry finally passes away and is taken to be buried next to his father, James. Now his father's whole name was James Clemens. The Henry's last name was Clemens, which makes Sam's last name Clemens. I'm pop this thing off. It's going to drive me crazy. And if you haven't figured it out by now, Samuel Clemens, we all know him better by his pen name, Mark Twain. He lost a brother, and he would actually go on to regale that in his Life on the Mississippi book that he actually wrote. Now, see, I got all these. I got all the darn gears and the bearings and everything changed out on this thing now. Now it's putting it back together. And once you get the springs on, it's relatively simple from there on out. It's not hard. It's just a pain in the butt. You just gotta. Like I said, it's just a pain in the butt to get those springs back on. But you want to put that gear on before you put the springs on, because you put the springs on before you get that gear on, you'll never get it on. You got to make sure everything's loose. See how those springs are on? Sometimes I can pop them on in just a minute, and sometimes it takes me 10, 15, 20 tries. Yeah, that's what I was looking for in my wrench. Like I said, luckily I don't have to do this all the time. This is just basically at this particular customer's account. He wants them done every year, which is fine. I mean, he's going to ensure that he never has any problems out of his feeder assemblies, that's for sure. But anyway. And that's the finished product. That's the pulley. The belt goes around that pulley. You just got to tighten the pulley up. And that's what actually drives it. There's another assembly that actually does the driving on that thing. And it drives the gears, which drives the wheels, which feeds the strap. Pretty simple design. Springs aside.
Very good. You?
Ta-da! All done here. All All done. Boom, boom, boom. Right there. Cleaned up, ready for use.